Amy was 26 years old and worked the overnight shift at a gas station just outside of Las Vegas. She liked her job because it was mostly quiet, but it didn't stay that way for long. Pull up a seat and pop open the cooler. If you enjoy tales of the dark and strange, make sure to hit the like button, as that helps me bring you even more creepy stories. Welcome to The Campfire. My name is Amy, and this happened to me back when I worked overnights at a 24-hour gas station just off the 15 in North Las Vegas. It was just over 2 years ago. The store sat in a quiet spot, mostly truckers and late-night travelers. I liked the shift because it paid better, and after midnight, things usually stayed slow. It was just me, the cameras, and the hum of the lights. After about a month in, this guy started coming in every night around 2:30. He was tall, skinny, and smelled like some sort of chemical-type soap. It was a sweet smell, but not a pleasant one. He always wore the same black hoodie and always bought the same thing, a large black coffee and a pack of Marlboro Reds. He barely spoke at first. He would just nod when I rang him up. Nothing really weird. Plenty of people keep to themselves at that hour. I nicknamed him Hoodie Guy in my head. But after a couple of weeks, he started lingering. One night he paid, took his change, but stood by the coffee station staring at the hot dog rollers. I asked him if he needed anything else. He looked up and said, "You always work alone back here?" His voice was low, but still polite. I laughed it off and said, "Yeah, that was the job." He nodded and slowly left. I didn't think too much of it. But it kept going. Every night he'd buy the same things, then ask something small. "Do you ever get scared here alone?" Or, "How late do you stay?" He was always calm, always watching me for a second too long. I started feeling off. I tried to make small talk to fill the empty spaces. "Busy tonight?" But he would just smile and faintly say, "No, not yet." One night, around 3:45, he stood at the counter without ordering. I asked what he needed. He leaned in and he said, "I've been watching your shifts. You get out at 6, right? You walk out the back door and head straight for your silver Honda." My stomach dropped. I told him that if he wasn't buying anything, that I really needed to get back to work. He didn't argue. He simply said, "See you tomorrow," and walked out. I locked the door behind him, even though policy said that I shouldn't. My hands were shaking. I told my manager about it when he came in for the morning. He was very understanding and did not get mad at me for locking up at all. He said to call the cops if Hoodie Guy came back, but Hoodie Guy didn't show up that night, or the night after. I started to relax, thinking that he had moved on. Then, on the last shift before my weekend, as I counted the register at 5:45, the phone rang. I answered. A voice said, "You didn't think I'd miss saying hi on your Friday, did you?" I recognized Hoodie Guy's voice instantly, and it was weird. It was like he was trying to be even creepier than normal. I hung up on him, grabbed my stuff, and waited inside the office until my replacement arrived at 6. I quit the very next day. A month later, the store installed new cameras with better night vision and a buzzer for the back door. About a month after that, so now 2 months after I quit, my manager texted me. He wanted to let me know that Hoodie Guy was arrested. Apparently, he broke into the store after the new girl had saw him outside and she locked him out. He had said some pretty disturbing things to her the previous night. Once he realized that he was locked out, he became violent, shouting threats and banging on the glass doors. She had locked herself in the bathroom and called 911. It scares me to think about it, but that could have easily been me, and things could have turned out a lot worse. For about a year and a half, I worked overnight as a security guard at a mid-size hospital in Tucson, Arizona. The building was old. Some wings dated back to the 1970s, so after midnight, the halls felt more like they belonged to a different time. My job was simple: conduct rounds, check doors, and monitor the cameras from the desk in the basement. Most nights were boring. I'd listen to Coast on the radio, sip coffee, and count down the hours till sunrise. The 4th floor west wing was always the quietest. It was mostly storage rooms and a couple of decommissioned patient areas. It had a long corridor with dim lights, an effort to save energy. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. The air smelled like old linoleum and disinfectant that never quite went away. One night, around 2 a.m., I was doing my usual loop on the west when I heard a soft beeping. It was coming from one of the empty rooms, room 412. The sound was muffled, like a heart monitor alarm set too low. I figured maintenance had left something powered on. I pushed the door open with my flashlight. The room was completely bare. There was no bed, no equipment, just a single metal chair facing the window and a thin layer of dust on the floor. The beeping stopped the instant I stepped inside of the room. I swept the light around, checked the outlets, but there was nothing plugged in. I stood there for a minute, listening to the silence settle. Finally, I gave up, left the room, and finished my round. But the next night, it happened again. It was the same room, same beeping, and the same abrupt stop when I opened the door. This time, though, I stayed longer. I stood in the doorway and counted the tones. There was a beep, then a long pause. Beep, long pause. It sounded exactly like a monitor flatlining, the kind you hear when a patient codes, and then nothing. I called the charge nurse on the radio. She sounded half asleep and said, "There's nothing hooked up in that wing. Those old alarms don't even work without power anymore." I told her I would keep an eye on it. After that, the little things started to pile up. Footsteps echoing down empty corridors when I knew no one else was on the floor. A door handle turning slowly from the inside of a locked storage closet as I would walk by. If I froze, shined my light on it, the handle would stop moving. I told myself that it was the building settling. Maybe the pipes were expanding in the heat, or maybe the HVAC was playing tricks on me. But then one night in the break room, around 3:30 in the morning, the old radio on the counter clicked on by itself. The static crackled, then a woman's voice. She said, "Help me." She only said it once, but I spun around so fast that I knocked over my coffee. The room was completely empty. I turned the radio off, I even unplugged it, and I sat there staring at it for about 5 to 10 minutes until my heart finally slowed down. I started asking the other guards. The older guy, Mike, who's been there about 20 years, just nodded like he had heard it all before. 4th West has always been like that, he said. We don't talk about it much. He also said that it used to be the psych ward way back in the day. Some patients didn't leave the way that they had come in. He told me that the beeping was probably leftover wiring shorting out, but the footsteps, he said he'd heard them too. Always late, and always following the same path down the hall and stopping at 412. He shrugged and added, "You get used to ignoring it. Or, you don't." I tried to ignore it. I switched my rounds to prioritize the east wing whenever possible, but the beeping kept pulling me back. One night, I stood outside room 412 with the door cracked, just listening. The tone came again. Beep, pause. Beep, pause. And then, from inside the room, something else. It sounded like a faint scratching, like fingernails slowly scratching against metal. It stopped when I pushed open the door. I shunned the light in, but there was nothing, just the chair, the dust, and the window reflecting my own flashlight beam back at me. My reflection looked scared. I told the charge nurse everything the next shift. She didn't laugh, but she didn't brush it off. She looked tired and said, "I've heard the voice too. The one in the break room. The same words." She told me she started wearing earbuds on her breaks just to drown it out. We both agreed that it was probably stress, the old building, and the lack of sleep, but nothing more. But neither of us believed that. I transferred to day shift a few weeks later. The hospital renovated Fourth West the following year. With new wiring, new flooring, and new alarms, everything was gutted and rebuilt. Supposedly the beeping stopped. The footsteps stopped. Mike retired right after the work finished, but before he left, he pulled me aside in the parking lot and said, "They finally gave that floor a fresh start. Sometimes that's all it takes." I myself found a new job shortly thereafter. I still drive past the hospital on my way to the new job. The lights on 4 West are bright now, matching the rest of the building. No more dim corridors, no more buzzing. But every once in a while, when I'm up late and the house is really quiet, I catch myself listening for that soft, steady tone, just in case. I've been a police officer in the town of Red Hollow for 12 years. The population is just under 4,000, not counting the farms scattered past the grain silos. It's the kind of place where nothing really happens overnight. Most shifts are just checking unlocked doors, stray dogs, and making sure that the same 3 bars close without a fight. That week, I was working nights alone. My partner was out sick, and the sheriff decided that 1 unit was plenty. It's a quiet town, he said, and it always has been. So one night, just after midnight, dispatch sent me out to Miller's Feed and Supply on Route 9. The door alarm was going off. That place trips alarms every winter when the metal contracts, so I wasn't that worried. The drive over was empty, fog hanging low over the road like it was trying to settle. The building was locked, no sign of forced entry, but when I stepped inside to clear it, the radio behind the counter was on, just static, low and steady. I turned off the radio, reset the alarm, and I left. Sometime later, maybe an hour or so, the alarm went off again. It took me about 20 minutes to get back to the feed store. This time, the radio was back on when I walked in. It was louder, and the counter felt warm when I rested my hand on it, like someone had just stepped away. I didn't write that part down in my report. But again, I turned off the radio, turned off the lights, locked the door, and made my way out. A little while after that, dispatch sent me to a welfare check on the edge of town, over by the quarry. There was an older woman named Mrs. Carter. I found her asleep in her chair. The TV was on, but it was an empty channel that was hissing white snow at us. But when I woke her up, she swore that she didn't turn the TV on. I told her that her daughter, who lives out of town, was trying to contact her throughout the day. She said that she hadn't heard anything all night. When I got back into my cruiser, dispatch had called again. They asked if I was okay, and I told them that I was. They said that they had just gotten a call from my unit, an open line, no voice, just breathing. I pulled over and checked the car. Nothing was out of place. The dash cam was off, and the back seat was empty. The trunk was locked. I told myself the radio system was old, that the town's wiring was old, that I was tired. Sometime around 3, I passed Miller's again, and the front door was wide open. Inside, the office light was on. The radio was screaming static now. What looked like my citation book was open and on the counter, my name written across the page in my own handwriting, like I signed in for something that I didn't remember. I shut everything down and left. I didn't clear the building. I didn't call it in. I finished my shift in silence. There were no more calls that night, no more alarms. In fact, there was no radio chatter at all. It felt like that the town was holding its breath until morning. By the time the sun had come up, everything was feeling normal again. Everything felt solid and real. I went home and slept most of the day. That afternoon, the sheriff called me into his office. When I got there, he had old files strewn across his desk. These looked like they were from before my time. He told me that Miller's Feed and Supply used to be the town's dispatch point back in the 60s, back before computers. Officers would check in there overnight. take calls through a hardwired line on the counter. The radio had been installed in the late 50s, but the line was never removed, just buried in the wall and forgotten. Then he slid a yellowed report across the desk. It was an officer's death. He worked at the overnight shift. It happened during the winter, and he was alone. He had a heart attack behind the counter. They didn't find him until morning because the line was open, and everyone assumed it was just static. My name was in the subject line. It was written at the top of the report. Even though it was the same name, this was in fact my grandfather. I never met the man. He died years before I was born. But my parents never mentioned that he was a cop. I had no idea. Nowadays, I only work day shift. I refuse to touch overnights again. But every once in a while, when I drive past Miller's late in the evening, I swear that I can still hear the radio through the glass. Static, low and steady, like someone is checking in.